This week, the covers are off the all-new Land Rover Discovery. Chris Goffey gets it dirty. Pink Floyd's Nick Mason talks about his passion for classic sports cars. The technology of the A-Class explained by Howard Stableford. And happy birthday Lotus, 50 this month.
Look amazing, don't they? But would you want to marry one? Do you think you could live with one?
And until fairly recently, that's a statement that you could have applied to Italian cars. Great bodies that demanded rather too much attention underneath the bonnet. The motoring equivalent of having a gorgeous but slightly unpredictable supermodel on your arm.
Those days, however, do seem to be over. Meet the supermodel with brains, who also knows how to have fun, the Alfa 156. Carrying on Alfa's tradition, the 156 is indeed the stuff that supermodels are made of. Its looks would happily put many of them to shame. And happily it'll cost you far less to get this beauty out of the garage in the morning than it does to get Claudia Schiffer and the gang out of bed. Just £17,600 will put you behind the wheel of a 156, and I reckon it's a small price to pay for such a vision.
However, this 156 will make a slightly larger dent in your bank balance because on this version the beauty isn't merely skin deep. Underneath the bonnet you'll find an absolutely amazing 24-valve 2.5 litre V6 engine, the roar from which will make your chest hairs stand on end and will considerably soften the blow when you write out your cheque for £22,300. Now, while you gaze in admiration, taking in the beauty of this car, let me fill you in on its pedigree.
Created by quite possibly the sexiest race on earth, the 156 was designed in Alfa's studio in Milan, a town that simply oozes style and passion. It has unmistakable Alfa styling cues all over it, the classic whiskers that run down to the headlights, the unmistakable V on the bonnet. And like the finest of supermodels, it knows that it's the little details that make all the difference.
Like the way the boot key is cleverly hidden underneath the Alfa badge. The discreet rear door handles that make the 156 seem like it's a coupe. The gorgeous design of the key, it just begs out to be fondled. And what about the feel of the retro silver door handles in your hands? How long before these inspire a whole host of pretenders? That retro feeling of the silver handles is carried on the interior. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has curves in all the right places. And the deep instrument panels really add to the sporty feeling of the 156. And I just love the way this mahogany steering wheel feels in your hands. The leather sport seats do come as an extra, but I reckon they're so much nicer than the velour ones that come as standard, they're worth saving up for.
All in all, the 156 is the kind of car that it's a pleasure to wake up to in the morning. But of course, as we all know, looks aren't everything. Personality counts as well. And even the entry-level 1.8 version is packed with it. So that must mean that this V6 is the life and soul of the party.
And it is, with 120 brake horsepower to keep you entertained and a top speed of 142 miles an hour to amuse you, this car is absolutely packed with fun. Now, the 6-speed gearbox is as smooth as silk, and the roar that you get from that V6 will really send you into raptures. Now, you can feel the power from the engine the moment that your foot hits the accelerator. It goes like a rocket, but it's once you get to 4,000 revs that this engine really begins to sing. These seats feel firm and they feel supportive, and they add to the sporty feeling of the 156. And as I've said before, I just love the steering wheel. That also adds to the whole sportiness of the car. It really is just fantastic fun to drive.
Driving the 156 will put a huge smile on your face, and it gets about as much attention as a supermodel as well. Every time I left it parked up, I returned to find admirers all wanting a closer look. So, the Alfa has got the gorgeous looks and the personality you'd expect from a driver's car.
That was certainly the case with the Alfas of old, but the 156 really is in a different league. It feels solidly built and it simply oozes quality. And although it's too early to tell how all that will hold up over time, industry experts reckon that the 156 is going to have very high resale values, a sure sign that this car is built to last.
Are you tempted? Well, this V6 seems to be the perfect model. It's a great combination that just can't fail to win you over. But if you do succumb to the charms of the Alfa 156, then I have a warning for you. Just don't spend too much time out having fun in it. Your other half may find it hard to believe that it's just a car that's captured your heart and is putting that faraway look in your eye.
A major new book has just been launched, highlighting some of the historic racing cars in the collection of Pink Floyd's drummer Nick Mason. The book even contains a CD of the sounds of the cars driven hard. Co-written by the Daily Telegraph's Mark Hales, we met up with the authors at a book signing session.
Well, I first got into cars through my father. It was all his fault, really. And I used to go and watch him racing because he used to race vintage cars. And he was very involved in motorsport. He made films about the history of motor racing. And so the greatest childhood treat would be to be taken to Silverstone and watch him, and that's where it all started. Well, the thrill of driving these cars is just that that's when they're at their very best. That these cars static under a dust sheet or in a museum are really not as effective as when they're actually being driven hard. And most of the cars are capable of sliding and drifting and being pushed in that way, and that's when they're at their very best. One of the things about this book is that what we've done is we've tested the cars and tried to make comparisons to show a little bit how motor engineering has changed over the years. What we've done is when we've taken all the cars and at the back of the book correlated all the figures for the lap times, 0 to 60 and so on, we've made that comparison. What we've also done is we've included a BMW M3, a sort of modern good saloon, I mean performance saloon, so that you can actually see a little bit how these cars compare. What you see is that cars have got better over the years and have got quicker round the circuit, but in fact a lot of those early cars are still really quick, and in fact 0 to 60 times on a 1936 car may be a lot better than on a much later car.
Well, the special thing about the book is that we were able to drive all these cars so hard. I mean, we're both competing racing drivers and we both like to win. And there was no question of not driving them as fast as they could possibly go. And it's pretty rare to have somebody who's got all those cars in one collection and is happy to have them driven that hard. So we were able to drive them flat out, we were able to photograph them as we wanted. The book's full of special photographs, they're all original. We were able to record the cars and we were able to test them against the clock. So as far as we know, this book has never been done before.
Well, I am asked which is the favourite car or which is the car I'd keep, and particularly which is the car I'd rescue if there was a fire. And my bank manager has instructed me to save the GTOs. It has by far the greatest value. But that's actually a good choice because it's not only the most valuable, it also is the best all-rounder. You can use it for racing, you can use it for rallying, and in fact you can drive it on the road. It looks beautiful, performs well, and has a lovely history.
A deserted Highland glade in North Scotland, the perfect setting, you might think, for Land Rover's new Discovery, monarch of the glen, master of all it surveys, or so the advertising and marketing hype would have you believe. Actually, it's probably more at home dropping the kids off at school in Surbiton and going on to tackle the wilds of the Sainsbury's car park. But this is the mad 4x4 marketing scene, where reality takes a second place to the myth of off-roading, and you think by buying a vehicle like this you're granted the freedom of the wilderness. Land Rover always like to get the most out of their body tooling. After all, Current Defender doesn't look that different from Series 3 Land Rover from 25 years ago. The Range Rover was introduced in 1969 and went for almost 20 years before it was changed. Now we've got New Discovery, just under 10 years from the original launch. But though the vehicle looks the same, make no mistake, this is an entirely new vehicle, from the wheels up. New Discovery is longer and wider, with a wider rear track, and there's lots more space in the back for the 6th and 7th seats, which are now forward facing with clever headrests that swing down from the roof. Surprise, surprise, it's going to be more expensive when it launches in November, £25,000 to £35,000. But the major changes are under the skin. First surprise, under the bonnet there's a new diesel engine, and it's not a BMW. It's a 5-cylinder, 2.5 litre new diesel engine developing 136 brake horsepower and a massive 232 pounds-feet of torque. But more importantly, it delivers that torque really low down in the rev range. There's 80% available from just 1300 revs and 90% available from 1450 RPM. Now, you might think that's technical gobbledygook, but it's very important to Discovery owners who tow, because so many of them have heavy boats or caravans and horse trailers. And that means you can move away from rest without slipping the clutch or struggling with low range. But when you do decide to emulate the adverts and the articles in the car magazines in your brand new 4x4, and you find somewhere in this crowded island where you can go off-road, it's a situation that I must say is heavily frowned upon by the ramblers, the horse riders and the mountain bikers, well then you get into a seriously high-tech scene in the New Discovery. In the first place, the steering has been changed to avoid kickback and fight on rough surfaces. The rear suspension is now self-leveling with air springs, and that means that you can raise the height of the vehicle when you're going over rough ground. And the vehicle also automatically sense when the middle of the car is grounded and the rear wheels are spinning, and it'll raise the back end automatically. There's a new anti-lock braking system that works really well off-road, and a thing they call electronic traction control, so that the traction to the wheels is done electronically and not by a viscous coupling, and that removes the need for a lockable central diff. And there's also a thing called hill descent control. Press a button and the vehicle will automatically maintain a speed of between 4 and 7 miles an hour, depending on gear, down the steepest hill. Now, it's not doing it through engine braking, it's automatically giving braking effect to front and rear axle to get the maximum possible grip. And that is a very safe system indeed. Roger, you've been driving off-road for more hundreds of years than I care to remember, but I mean, this vehicle seems very sophisticated, lots of electronic gizmos. Do we really need them?
Well, I wouldn't put it down as electronic gizmos. What we're trying to do is make the vehicle more user-friendly. How many times have you been with colleagues or other people driving off-road when they've struggled to find the centre diff lock, or they've struggled to find low range? Instead of having a lever that moves in several directions, as a transfer lever does on Land Rover products, we've got a forwards and a backward movement. We've got low range, we've got high range, and that's all you have to worry about. The electronic traction control will look after the rest. The hill descent will help you descend hills, even if you're not used to selecting first gear. So I think we've made the car user-friendly, even if we have used electronics to make it work easier for people.
One of the major criticisms of old Discovery was that unpleasant lurching and rolling on quite gentle tarmac curves and dips. Drivers got used to it, but it did give passengers a queasy ride. The car seemed to lurch over to an angle and then settle at that angle through a bend. Now comes ACE, Active Cornering Enhancement. There's an electronically controlled hydraulic ram at each corner, and that works to keep New Discovery on a level plane through the bends. Hurrah! There's no denying the effectiveness of the electronic gizmos across country with the new Discovery, but for me the most impressive factor is now the way it performs on the road. At high speed it's very stable, and gone is the lurching and swaying that used to put so many people off. It's now a very sophisticated road car.
After the break, save money and save the planet. Also the technology behind the new Mercedes A-Class. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, supported by the Department of the Environment, Transport and the Regions, has launched a new initiative to help motorists address the problems of bad exhaust emissions and help us to save money as well.
A car that's badly tuned, that hasn't been serviced well, will pollute the atmosphere to far greater extent than one which is well tuned.
These checks are designed to educate motorists about the advantages of reducing car emissions by keeping cars well serviced and by buying cleaner fuels, driving more smoothly, checking tyre pressures and, of course, driving less.
The government have a policy whereby they're trying to clean up our air. Cars are one of the biggest polluters we have, and carbon monoxide is the killer. We've also got hydrocarbons emitted from a car, which is unburnt fuel, oil particles, etc., all of which are injurious to health. What the government are trying to do, and the 7 pilot authorities that are running this scheme, is to bring an awareness to drivers to actually try and clean their car up by regular servicing and maintenance.
In addition to reducing pollution, the Stop Fuming campaign will help drivers hold on to their cash. A well-serviced car is a cost-efficient car, saving up to £154 in running costs in a single year.
After the costly embarrassment of failing the notorious elk test, does the new A-Class Mercedes-Benz finally go to the top of the class in terms of the more technical angles of engine design and safety? And in any case, what changes did they make to the original tipper truck version? Well, for a start, the whole car has been lowered slightly, 13mm at the front and 10mm at the back. It also has a wider rear track, and greater understeer has been built in as well. The shock absorbers were changed, and so too were the tyre specifications. But apart from those things, this is pretty much the original design. And let's not forget that where the A-Class is concerned, they pretty much started with a blank sheet of paper. And no doubt, after much scribbling and crossing out, the result has some incredibly ingenious design work incorporated. Let's go and have a look around. Cunningly, they've been able to make the interior space just 4mm shorter than the C-Class version from the back of the seats to the dashboard. But it's far more flexible. All these seats can be made to disappear. I'll come round and show you. Right, just 3 levers to play with here. Lever number 1, back flips over. Lever number 2, whole seat tilts up. Lever number 3 down here, and out comes the seat. Voila! Anyone for a minivan? The reason there is quite so much space is very clever, because down here, that's a false floor. Not the place to stash your family fortune though, because under there you'll find most of the engine and transmission. And since that's below, it frees up the space in front for the passenger cabin. Because you're perched on top of what amounts to a sandwich of 2 floors, with the engine and gear train in the middle, the ride position is quite high, which gives better visibility all round. Side protection is also improved because the driver and passengers sit above the normal side impact accident zone. Now this is the 1.6 litre 5-speed manual with an added and rather surprising trick. You see, there's no clutch pedal. So when you want to change gear, you just lift your foot off the accelerator, the car senses that you want to change gear, and an electric motor operates the clutch for you. So you then just move the gear shift as normal. It's very strange at first, takes a bit of getting used to, but certainly saves your left foot, particularly in city centres. The A-Class is certainly a car of many letters. After all, it comes bristling with ABS, BAS, ASR and ESP, and you almost have to be psychic to work out what they all mean. First of all, ABS, well, that's simple enough, of course. It prevents the wheels from locking if you need to slam the brakes on in a hurry. BAS, brake assist system, of course. If you make the brake pedal hit the metal in a hurry but not hard enough, the car does it for you. ASR, bit of a cheat this one, acceleration skid control. It prevents wheel spin during acceleration, so riders will be disappointed. And finally, ESP. No, not extrasensory perception, but electronic stability program, which incidentally was added to the car after things went topsy-turvy. Basically what it does is to take all the fun out of going round corners too quickly or swerving to avoid, say, well, an elk, by braking the car or slowing the engine down. And we find that it cuts in quite early, but it's very effective. All in all, this is a little technological tour de force. Mercedes-Benz have clearly turned somersaults to make sure that this is finally one of the safest cars on the road. Safe, that is, unless your chosen profession happens to be an A-Class crash test dummy.
Lotus Cars is celebrating 50 years of innovation. This is the Lotus Mark I, built by founder Colin Chapman in 1948. This car marked the turning point in motor racing history and the start of the rise of Lotus in the sports car industry. 12 years later, Lotus went on to win in Formula One, followed by 6 Drivers' World Championships and 7 Constructors' World Championships. Also celebrating its 50th birthday is Lotus Engineering, one of the world's leading automotive engineering consultancies. Lotus Engineering works on most of the world's major car manufacturers. In fact, by the year 2000, 40% of cars on Europe's roads will have Lotus-designed engines. In this, its 50th year, Group Lotus, which employs over 1,300 people, has recorded its highest turnover and profit since the company began. And since 1992, Lotus has doubled its turnover. A new client project centre and design studio will be opening early next year at Lotus's headquarters near Norwich. Happy 50th, Lotus!